record.
Okay.
A lot of issues before we started recording.
All right. Ad wearing friend Samantha.
I'm a bitch, Mason.
Oh my God. Hi, it's your girl Aggy, and in this channel, I will talk about all the things that I love. Not really, it's not my channel, but hello. Hello, everyone.
Okay, so we are here to do Pearl Next Door with a special guest, Aggy, from the Aggy Brown channel. You guys should go subscribe to her. We've been friends for a couple years. We all met through the same like K-pop circle on YouTube, and then we've kind of all slowly progressed a little bit out of that.
We're evolving.
Yeah. It's been several years since we first met Aggy, because at the time that we first started talking to her, she was living in Korea, and then after that is when she moved to China. So it's been a minute, because you're not even in China anymore right now. Currently, you're in Poland.
Wasn't it like in 2015? Because your guys' channels were, I think, first, and then I started like posting some videos, and I don't know, I think I just connected with a couple of people. I remember your video from a couple of days ago when you were talking about some people that are kind of like no longer on the platform, and I remember these people too. So I think it must have been like a hot minute, like at least 5 years, I think.
Oh yeah, it's been a long time.
Yeah, I think, I started my channel, I remember February 1st, 2016.
Okay.
Oh wow, you're about to have your 5-year anniversary in a couple of weeks. Well, less than a couple of
next week or so. Oh,
yeah.
Okay. I'll do nothing for it.
So normally when we start our videos, we start it with it's good when you hear Raikon Topani, but this is not a Raikon Topani. And also we have a special guest, and we're not going to make her embarrass herself for your pleasure.
I'm waiting for it. Oh.
But however, I feel really terrible because we've invited our special guest to be on this particular episode with us because we were doing Pearl Next Door. And while we never want to invite bad feelings or any kind of negative attention on anybody that we care about, let's just address the elephant in the room here. This is not going to be a Sunshine and Lollipops review. And it's not because we didn't give this show a fair chance. For those of you who don't know our history when it comes to this particular franchise, the first review that we did regarding an Ideal First production was Game Boys. And that review had mixed reaction. But at the end of the year, when we did our Boys Love Awards, which you can look on our channel to see, I said that Game Boys was my top Filipino boys love of the year. So even though it was a mixed bag, it still came out on top for me. However, Pearl Next Door has some issues. And because of that, we'd like to address them. And we want to be completely upfront, honest. We don't want to bite our tongues about it. We don't want to try to say things to keep people from being angry at us. But at the same time, we're not going to be just needlessly shitting on this thing, because that's not in our spirits. We're not here to just be mean for mean's sake. It really is addressing something that this show was supposed to be one thing, and it became something very, very different by the end. And that needs to be talked about. That absolutely needs to be talked about. So with that spirit in mind, if you don't want to hear negative things about your favorite show, please go somewhere else. Because we're not saying negative things to be mean, we're saying negative things to be honest. And there is a big difference. So take that and do with it what you will. But if anybody goes to Aggy's page and decides to be nasty, rude, mean, whatever, you will get the swiftest block from us in return. So do with that what you will.
I think you don't have to worry about feeding me negative energy though, because I just, as you know, I thrive on it. No, I'm just going to add that actually I do agree with you guys. I mean, at least with Samantha, that I did quite enjoy the Game Boys. So I was really looking forward to Pearl Next Door for many different reasons. And I really, really wanted it to be good. So I'm going to say what I'm going to say with a really heavy heart, I think, but it just needs to be said, I think, yeah.
Yeah. So I guess I'll start with the synopsis. So quick rundown, Pearl Next Door is about Pearl, who is a YouTuber slash internet personality who is, like all of us, navigating the coronavirus pandemic. And she has a very good friend named Carlene, who she confesses her feelings towards. Carlene rejects her, and then Pearl ends up reconnecting with an old friend from like kindergarten or something named Alex. Alex and Colleen are very different vibes, but Alex very forwardly tells Pearl that she has a crush on her. So the series is about Pearl deciding who she should choose, Carlene or Alex.
It was it kindergarten though? I thought it was like, wasn't it a little bit later? Because
It
if
was
that
young.
was really kindergarten, it feels even more ridiculous, like the whole premise then. But anyway.
It had to
Okay,
be
no.
like in America what we would call maybe third or fourth grade, only because of the drawing that Alex made for Pearl. It seemed like it
That's
was
true.
kind of a kid drawing, but it didn't seem like it was a middle school art piece.
Okay, that makes sense. Well, that makes even less sense now, but I guess that makes sense, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sure someone in the comments will get angry and be like, actually, it was in the 5th grade. You guys should pay attention more. So
I'm
And to that,
looking forward to reading that.
we
I
haven't
like
gotten
my
before.
standard
So.
answer to that kind of thing, eat my ass. But let's move on.
So just a heads up, we did watch all episodes. I watched the whole thing yesterday, but I cannot retain every bit of information in every episode of every TV show that I've watched. So I am sorry if we trip up a little bit. Just a disclaimer, because
No.
I made a lot of notes just because I was so nervous about being here and I really didn't want to mess up your guys' show. So I was just like being extra conscious of things. But as I was kind of rewatching also a little bit yesterday, like several things that I think I hadn't like thought of during the first watch kind of came to me. So I hope that you guys will raise them so we can maybe talk about them. We'll see.
I love that you said that because there's a channel here on YouTube. I think her name is Moon Consort. I always want to call it Moon's Consort, but I think it's just Moon Consort. And she and her sister do a review of Pearl Next Door every time the episode comes on. And I usually leave comments on her reviews because I really enjoy their reviews. And the way that people responded to the last episodes, it was very obvious for me that a lot of people don't go back and watch the beginning episodes before they've kind of determined how they feel about the last one. This rewatch I did of Pearl Next Door, I was like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe how many things like were like red flags and signals that I missed. How many times characters stated their intentions that should have made people never root for them, and how many times characters contradicted themselves. That was super evident on the rewatch. So yeah, I can't wait to get into it because I mean, as far as I'm concerned, Pearl didn't have no choices in this show. Pearl didn't have a single one.
I think in regards to what you said, it's probably because there were such huge delays in episodes. There was like 3 weeks, I think, between episode 5 and 6. So honestly, even I just completely forgot what was in like episode 1 to 3. So when I was rewatching, it was just like a completely different world to me. I don't know. So
I think that was a big part of it. And also, I think they were writing the show in response to fans' opinions online.
Never good. Never good.
I also noticed that the show is it goes in circles, like each episode follows the exact same pattern. And I think that's why you can get lost in it. Cause it's like Carlene, by episode 3, the status quo pretty much doesn't change until like the last 5 minutes of of episode 8. So from episodes 3 to 8, we have Carlene likes Alex back.
Alex?
Pearl is aggressively, huh? Oh, sorry, what?
Carlene likes Pearl back, right? Not
Likes
Alex.
Pearl back, sorry.
Yeah.
Carlene likes Pearl back. Pearl is not sure if she kind of still likes Carlene, but she's like, oh, maybe I can convince myself to like Alex. And Alex is just aggressively saying, I like you to Pearl. And it's those 3 people having that conversation for 5 episodes. And it just went in circles. This show could have been 4 episodes.
Yeah, I think it should have finished at 5, and I think that was the original intention. At least that's what I read about it. But then they made the 3-part finale, I guess because they had clearance on COVID, right? Like they've done the quarantine, so they just felt like, okay, we're gonna go for it. But it really brought nothing to the series. And I think we can all agree that, especially considering that we've all Game Boys, personally, this show really made me dislike Pearl, and she was my favorite character in the previous show. It's honestly quite crazy how bad they wrote her. So yeah.
What I had said pre-filming was that sometimes side characters are not meant to be main characters, and this show is an ideal example of that. You know, one of the things that Game Boys made us like about Pearl is that Pearl was kind of the assistant to the romance between Gav and Cairo. But because she was that assistant, we really didn't know much about Pearl in terms of her wants, her desires, her personal life outside of the glimpses we got in that relationship. And once we got to see Pearl without being the catalyst for romance between Gav and Cairo, I'll be honest, I don't know if it's the actress or if it's the writing, even though I think it's the writing, they didn't really give us much. They didn't give us much at all. There was no part of Pearl that I could identify as being like, oh, this is a human. And go ahead.
I was gonna say the only thing that I was like, oh, this is an interesting character thing that they did is Pearl was, and I think they did this because maybe it's more taboo in the Philippines to talk about, because it's like not super talked about in America either, just like the female orgasm and masturbation. Like she just had some very frank.
That was like 5 minutes.
Yeah, I do this.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, I'm glad that she's open about it. I feel like someone young who's watching this might really gain something from that. But other than that, she's just like a bubbly person, and that's it.
When you said that somebody young might gain something out of that, I watched the show with my daughter.
Oh.
You know, as a parent, I have to do a lot of work to make her understand that there's nothing wrong with exploring your sexuality, that it's not a bad thing to talk about. Don't be ashamed. But that was still a very difficult thing to be like, yeah, G-spot orgasm versus clitoral orgasm. Sure, why not?
Even though I do agree that this was kind of like informative, but I don't know about you guys, but I personally felt that these kinds of points were very kind of made this show almost unnatural at times, in the sense that I had the feeling that the writing was trying to go in a certain way, and there were several situations and like actions that kind of persisted, like some characters' actions that kind of continued. But then because there were certain things that I don't know, the script writer or whoever wanted like kind of checked, like they had a list and they were like, okay, this check, this check, this check. So like being sort of quote unquote politically correct and putting in some kind of like, here's information about this, or now we're going to talk about bisexuality, which they didn't talk about at all, or now we're going to do this, or the polyamory, which was like executed probably, that was the worst thing out of this entire show for me. So I just felt like it was written in a very tropey way, but then it kind of, like Mason said, it went in circles, but at the same time, it was kind of like almost going into something completely weird and unhealthy. And it was reined back in at the very last moment with this kind of like a sticker slapped on it being like, no, this is what you shouldn't do. Like now you should go to therapy, or like now you should do this, or I just, everything about this narrative. And you said about kind of how Pearl was not meant to be the main character, but I think that I would more be more inclined to believe that it was the writing, because I was looking forward to this show so much. I had such huge expectations, and the writing just didn't deliver when there were just so many things that they could have done with it, and it just didn't. Like, it just did nothing.
Agreed. It's really the writing, because like there's some base level things that the show gets right. Like I think all of the three main actresses I thought were all very talented, and they're all like stunning. The woman who plays Carlene is like one of those people that if I saw her Instagram, I'd be like, I hope you're a bitch because you're too beautiful to be nice. Like, I don't, that's too much. You get too much from God. And then Alex, I was like, listen, Alex, when you're back in LA, you and me, we'll smoke a joint and we'll watch some movies.
I was all over
Me,
Alex.
girl.
Man, the real winner of this entire show is Rachel Coates. Not Alex, the actress Rachel Coates.
Mhm.
She developed such a huge stand amongst Filipino lesbians. It's not even funny.
Mhm.
Like, profile went through the moon.
But
Yeah.
are we even surprised, to be honest?
No, she was so charming.
This was part of, I'm not even going to lie, this was part of the reason why at first watch, I was like Team Alex all the way. And only when I actually rewatched the show did I realize how messed up that character was. So
She got some rough
So
flags.
hot take. Alex is Amber from FX.
oh my God, why would you
Don't
say
do
that?
this to me, Sam. Don't bring it.
Why?
Don't.
Think about it.
No. Alex is what Amber is trying to be, but is failing at.
But like very similar energies, Kano.
One feels more genuine. I'll put it
I
that
was
way.
never a fan of Amber, so all the things about her being a lesbian icon, I never felt it personally, so I can't really I can't really see it, I guess, but
Well, yeah, it's hard to be an icon when you're not out. But when you talk about somebody
really
who's
think that-
developing a person, I'm talking about Amber. When you're talking about a person whose personality is based on awkward weirdness, but also slightly thirst trappy, that's Amber, straight up. And so when I was watching Alex, I'm like, I don't like Alex. And I know I'm probably the only person on the planet who felt this way. But from the very beginning, I'm like, I don't like Alex. Something's up. Some shit ain't right. I feel like toxic positivity is playing a part in this character. Like, I just had the heebie jeebies. And when I was describing Alex to Mason before Mason watched the show, I'm like, okay, lesbian who plays the ukulele, you know what time it is.
Alex, I think the thing that like really like made me go with Alex was it was her and Pearl. My God, why am I forgetting the main character's name? Her and Pearl in the pool at the resort, and Alex is like, yeah, I really love the chase, but I just get bored of people really quickly. I was like, oh, Pearl, this is a real red flag. Maybe you guys should just be friends.
Yeah.
to be honest, I felt two things for Alex, and especially after this second watch, because of the writing. Personally, at first, I felt that she was almost too perfect. So this whole idea that she was easily bored of people, first of all, it felt like they were really trying to give her like a real character flaw rather than, kind of like a flaw that is a veiled compliment, which was already kind of weird because this was their first date. Nobody ever would say a thing like that on the first date. I don't think so. But also, she's quite young, isn't she? Like 20 something years old. Like, I don't know, I saw a lot of comments. I was reading comments on my drama list, and people were like, I was in agreement with on this, that at 24 you don't really have that many like long-term relationships behind your belt. Like, it's not even like this is such a big flaw, like she just hasn't found the one or something. But this is not even the biggest problem. The biggest problem is that when I rewatched this, I realized that actually Alex doesn't have a personality at all. Her only personality is liking Pearl. And she has so many different things in which like she's caring, like towards people, or she has some talents, or she's kind or whatever. But she doesn't because she doesn't really have anyone else. Like, Pearl has her friend, Carlene has her friend, like we get to see them at least a little bit from a different perspective, and Alex just has Pearl. So everything that she does is related to Pearl. And on second watch, it was honestly just frustrating, and it was just annoying, and I just couldn't believe that I liked her so much at first, and then I just became like, what is going on? Like, this character is literally unbearable. So,
Amber.
Yeah. Well, I think Alex is very
sorry. Do you really think that Amber is a closeted lesbian? Because I honestly think that she's straight. It's such a to me.
I feel like either Amber is a closeted lesbian or Amber might be trans or non-binary, somewhere on the spectrum. But yeah, I Alex not having a personality is the reason why I'm also thinking Amber, because what is Amber's personality, y'all? What is it? What is it? But like, okay, Alex, we probably should go through the personalities of every character, because we're almost there. We haven't really done Carlene's personality, but we kind of went through Pearl not having a personality. We talked about Alex. The thing really stuck out to me about Alex is Alex not only didn't have a personality, Alex was also probably the most cliched character on that show. She's, got the quirky bedroom with the LGBT flag. She writes cute songs for her girlfriend on her fucking ukulele. She takes awkward TikToks and stuff because she's got that awkward girl energy. She listens to Hamilton. Apparently that's a staple in the American lesbian life. So with all these things being there, see, she's just a stereotype. She's a stereotype. And how do you have a relationship with a stereotype? Even the conversation she has with Pearl is just like, whatever you want to do. What do you want to do?
Yeah.
I can do it for you.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, if I was Pearl, I'd also be kind of like, you're cool and all, but like, who the fuck are you?
I think it would have been, yeah, I wish they got more specific with stuff, because they always talked about like watching movies and reading books, but they never really went into it. Like, I would have loved if when Alex was like, this is like a small thing. Like if Alex was like, here's some books that I recommend. She pulls out like the fucking Winx Club or like the Witch comic books. And it's like, oh, that's kind of funny.
Somebody's been
Like,
Netflix like, in the last 3 days.
yeah, she's like, I'm ride or die for this bitch. Because like, I feel like that's what a lot of people are. They're like, oh, I have like a weird specific interest in like this one thing. And she's like, I just love the witch comic books. And it's like, okay, that'd be something.
Yeah.
It was already really weird that the first thing that she said to Pearl was that like she was her crush and they haven't seen each other in like 12 years. That was already, to me,
Yeah.
like, okay, so that's where we're going to go with it. But she wasn't really, like, she didn't really bother me at first, and then she did, so.
Yeah. Carlene is the best character on this entire show. Fight me if you'd like to. By the end of the show, I was absolutely Team Carlene. And let me tell you something. I still think that bitch is dirty. And after rewatching the show, I'm like, you've always been that waffly bitch. But at the same time, I was like, but out of all the three of you, you're the only one I'd actually want to hang out with.
I would not hang out with her, but I can agree that she probably has the most personality and just, well, I wouldn't call it character development, but there is the most to her, kind of like, as opposed to the other two ladies. So
she has an A to B, whereas everyone else just has an A.
I guess, yeah.
Yeah, her character definitely has a journey, but also like her character has depth. She has a backstory. Like she has relationships. That's the other thing. There's only two relationships that we know of Pearl. And if you didn't watch Game Boys, you don't even know about the second one. You only know about the first one. But Gav and Pearl. Gav is gay. They don't work out. She has one long distance relationship that we know about from Game Boys, but doesn't go into specifics in Pearl Next Door. Alex, we know that Alex likes to love them and leave them. We don't know any of her girlfriends, any of the particulars. Carlene, we got video recordings of 3 of her exes and her whole history with girls leaving me for guys. Like, Carlene is the only character really on this show.
Okay, I'm going to say it this way, that I was having a very hard time separating Carlene's trauma from her terrible biphobia. And those biphobic tendencies was what completely like put me off her. And her weak apology in episode 5, like I think I rewatched episode 5 like 5 times because I really didn't want to get the things that she said to her ex-girlfriend turned best friend at first, and then there was the apology that she made to Pearl. After that, she was dead to me.
Yeah.
So I can agree that she has meat to her, but in terms of like hanging out with her, liking her, like trying to be like team, what do they call her? Like them, like Pearline, like Pearl and Carlene, like I just couldn't stand her.
No.
Like
nobody's team Pearline. Everybody's team therapy. Nobody's team Pearline.
Some people are, apparently. Some people are rooting for Caroline until the end. So
No, she lost me the moment she said, all bi girls leave me for men. And I was like, oop.
allow me to
Sorry.
I wrote it all down, so allow me to just break it down for you guys.
Mhm.
First of all, like you said, that was part of the reason why at first I wasn't like really sure how I felt about it. But then I guess just like my intuition just kind of put me off her eventually, just because I was kind of like, okay, well, this might be taken as a personal trauma, but at the same time, her prejudice was based on two women, and she even said that they were free. But then Jill corrected her, saying, no, 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 I didn't leave you for a guy. Like, we were already broken up at that point. And then, so she didn't even take under consideration that, in the eventuality that Jill breaks up with her, I guess, no longer husband or whatever, she might even go back to dating girls again, right? Because, I mean, she's bi, right? So she says a lot of really kind of things that I just, after episode 5, like I said, she was dead to me. Like, in episode 1, she was basically trying to like invalidate Pearl's feelings, because she was saying like, oh, you've only dated a guy, so you don't, it doesn't, like, it means that your feelings are kind of not valid, you don't know, it's just a phase. Then she was kind of saying about how basically implying, this was basically implying that women, like bi women, are more likely to cheat, right? Because they were eventually going to go to like men, or like straight men. And then even at the very beginning, she says, I don't date straight women. And then Pearl is like, no, 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 I like you, so obviously I'm not straight. And she says, okay, so bi too, I don't date straight or bi. And I was already like, so you basically are biphobic, because you don't even think that bi is a real thing. You just think of all these women as straight because they eventually go back to men. So it means that everything is just a phase to them in relation to women. I just really, especially rewatching this, I just couldn't wrap my head around her character in that, like that. I was just, it was just too much, honestly. So
I can understand her character completely, because I think what I've noticed a lot of time with the Asian boys loves that we've been watching, because we haven't done a non-Asian one yet. Things like wifey and hubby roles, things like, feminine versus mask, things like that. There's still a lot of like gender roles and heteronormative activity that exist in those cultures that maybe you wouldn't see in a Western production. But even more so, the idea that you can have um, non-binary gender, the idea that you can have more than one sexual preference, you can be either gay, straight, or bi, or pan, that seems like that's something that's still developing. And I could see somebody like Carlene, who maybe it was enough for her to even acknowledge, like, I am exclusively with women. I don't think that her thinking is elevated enough to be like, oh, yes, and bi and pan, they exist. I don't think that she's there, because I think even the culture that she's in doesn't acknowledge the existence of bi people, because they're already so repressive anyway. So I could absolutely see why she would have that thinking, because even here in America, if I am a straight woman, if I'm a straight woman and I date a man and he tells me he's bi, if I was to tell my girlfriends around me, I'm dating this man, but he used to date men, immediately their first thought would be, oh, he must be on the down low.
Mhm.
Eventually he's going to be with a man, or he's going to be fucking men behind your back. So it's not a thing that's specifically to Asia. So I want to make that clear, but it definitely is something that we're even just now working our way away from that here in the West. I could absolutely see that being the viewpoint of most lesbians there.
I think that's a fair
I
point.
acknowledge this, and I understand this, but just personally, I think whether America, the Philippines, or any other, country or whatever, it's just, I think biphobia is biphobia. So her character was written, and surprisingly, I didn't know this, but this show was written by a queer woman. I don't know whatever queer means, whether she's bi or she's a lesbian, or I don't really know. It wasn't really identified, but I don't know. I can acknowledge this. I can acknowledge that this is, that this exists, but I don't think it makes it any more kind of correct or less hurtful. So
no, it doesn't make it less hurtful. I'm just saying I can understand why she would equate bi with straight.
I feel like it just shows a real shortcoming of this show not having enough of a message, because it would be interesting if Carlene started as, I don't really know if bi exists, that's not really a thing that I'm used to. And then throughout the series, her and Pearl kind of go through it together. Because even Pearl is like, I guess I'm bi. And then it's just like, that's the end of the conversation, you know? Whereas the show really could have elevated that, the talk of bisexuality, because even in American media, like, if there's a bisexual, it's usually like someone that's super slutty. They're just fucking anyone because they're bi. They're into anyone, you know? And that's always the case here.
Yeah, it's either you say you're bi, but you're actually a straight girl who kisses other girls to turn men on, or you say you're bi, but you're actually a man who's not comfortable with completely coming out as gay, or you say you're bi because you're just greedy. Like those are the stereotypes that a lot of people operate with when it comes to being a bisexual person. And that's not even taking into consideration somebody who might be pan, but also on the ace spectrum.
Right.
So, I mean, there's a lot of blind spots in Western characterizations of sexuality. It's not limited to Asia, but definitely, you know, there's some catching up to do on everybody's part. And so it's not right, but I get why it's there. And I think that's all that we can do sometimes with some of these portrayals. Is just, it sucks that it's there, but we're not in any position to question what the social mores are in some of these other places because they're not our cultures. And that's something that's really hard, because sometimes, I don't know if you guys struggle with it, but I'm like, okay, is this something that's an absolute right or wrong? Or is this something that's a right or wrong based on where I'm coming from?
Right.
this is the only thing that we can do though, right? That this is why I explicitly would like to say that obviously this is just my take on it. This is how I kind of receive the message of, or like the character of Carlene, because I completely agree with everything that you said. Like there are certain standards, and even in the so-called developed countries, whatever that means, like biphobia or bisexuality like is something that is largely like erased or ignored. So it's not like this is the only context, like the Philippines are the only context. That's not what I'm trying to say at all. It's just that
Oh no, you didn't. I did. That's why I wanted to clarify, because I was the one who said that.
but that being said, everything that you said and everything that Mason said, still Carlene is the most developed character in the show, and I am so sad because I really wanted the talk about bisexuality. I was waiting for that. Like ever since they kind of signaled that Pearl is that lady and they started calling her like the bi queen and everything during the run of the Game Boys, that's what I was like waiting for. And all these other like love interests and all these other characters were supposed to kind of be part of Pearl's journey. But instead we had Pearl being a part of Carlene's journey, I guess. And then Alex just being there, just being there.
Yes. Another thing that I don't think is given enough credit when it comes to the fact that Pearl really had no options is that up until, I want to say episode 4 even, Carlene wasn't even asking Pearl if Pearl will date her. It starts out with her saying, I'm not going to be with you at all because I don't date straight girls, you know, because you might run back to dick at any moment. Then it's like, okay, well, I'm not going to date you, but I definitely don't want you dating that Alex chick because I'm jealous. Then it's like, okay, well, I might be open to dating you, perhaps, maybe, I'm not sure, call me on a Tuesday, but you definitely got to get rid of that Alex bitch.
Mhm.
And it's one of those things where it's like, why are we entertaining Carlene at this point? Like Carlene does not even need to be talked to anymore because she's never going to be right for you, because from episode 1, and this is the thing that I feel like not enough people picked up on, Pearl tells Carlene, oh, are you going to dump me again when you're in another relationship? Because Carlene isn't even a friend enough to Pearl to stay in contact with Pearl when she's dating other women. So, I mean, Carlene's trash. But again, she's the only one I want to hang out with because she's the only actual human being. Everyone else is a hologram.
Mhm. Speaking of people being a hologram, I want to bring it back to Pearl because I have two qualms with Pearl. One of them, I have a pitch for how we can make Pearl better, at least a little bit. I wrote about this on Twitter a little bit. So Pearl is like a social media person, and I feel like a lot of social media people end up talking about how they always have to put on a face for the camera. And Pearl mentions it a few times in this series as well. Like, hey Alex, let's drop the facade that we always put on. Tell me something bad about yourself, you know? So I think it'd be more interesting, instead of Pearl typing out every fucking thought she ever has or every emotion she ever has into Twitter or Facebook, we could see her like start to type, wow, I'm feeling really down today. And you see her delete it and backspace, and instead she posts something that's fun and happy. So then when we get to the end, her facade is actually broken and she realizes that this isn't worth keeping up. And, you know, Pearl gets some fucking character development. My second thing, Pearl, in the last episode or 7th episode, when Carlene has to go run to Jill because Jill's fiance just broke off the engagement. Why was she so upset about that? Because she was like, Carlene, I'm just worried that I'll always be number 2, and I'm worried that you're gonna leave me again. And Carlene's like, I literally left you that one time because someone I love had such a horrible, terrible thing happen to them. And I'm like, Pearl, low-key fuck you for that one, because Carlene was right. She should have ran to her friend because Jill deserved.
No. Yes, Carlene should have ran to her friend, but no, Pearl's not in the wrong for feeling upset because, as I had mentioned earlier, Carlene always dumps Pearl when it comes to other bitches. So that's the reason why Pearl was upset, because she's like, this shit feels familiar. Because it's been established that Carlene does this since day one, since the very first episode, in actually the first 5 minutes. So, I mean, maybe it came crashing down to Pearl, like, as much as Carlene has said, you're my girl now, we're in this relationship, you're going to be my primary. Maybe she didn't realize that even if you're my primary, you'll always still be number 2 to whatever I want myself. Because Pearl being Carlene's girlfriend has nothing to do with Carlene loving Pearl. It has everything to do with Carlene's access to Pearl. She's never going to make it to where Pearl is not available for her emotionally when she needs Pearl. And I think in that moment, Pearl might have realized that that's exactly what it is, that she is Carlene's emotional support friend.
Mm-hmm.
But she was, since episode 1, she was pretty much emotionally blackmailed by Carlene, right? Because she confessed to Carlene, and then Carlene just basically cut her out for a little bit. And then when she came back, she said like, oh, it's all about me. Like, I cannot lose you. And then like we have to be friends. And Pearl's like, we're not friends. I just confessed to you. Yeah, but I need you as a friend, right? And I think this was, I mean, I agree with you, I guess. Yeah, now that you've kind of presented it this way, it sort of makes sense. But to me, the whole, like, the weakest point of this whole, I guess, plot was that Pearl was like, she developed feelings for Carlene, but they weren't like even like such, like, she had a crush on her, right? She said like, oh, I think I like you, but I personally couldn't feel that it was like one true love, like now it's you or nobody or anything like that. So the fact that she continued to kind of be so accessible to Carlene all the time, and and Alex wasn't obviously ideal, like we've already established that, but I felt like if Alex were a real person that was kind of completely unrelated to Pearl, she had some qualities that, to me personally, she seemed the most normal person. So it's fine if Pearl doesn't have feelings for Alex, but I still felt like being around Carlene was, under like normal circumstances, it would be so emotionally exhausting.
Mm-hmm.
If I were Pearl, I would welcome Alex's company.
Yeah, I thought it was, I hated that at the end, Pearl was like, I'm gonna love you for a while, I'll wait for you, to Carlene. I'm like, no, Pearl, get out of there. They both suck. I think you could do better.
Yeah, I would have popped on the first set of genitals smoking. I wouldn't have waited for either one of them bitches. Can we talk about Alex and the fact that Alex is actually, not only is she just a stereotype, but like, she's low-key super toxic as well. When Alex love bombs Pearl, because that's what it is, she's love bombing Pearl.
Mm-hmm.
And then when it's time to talk about, oh, what's your good side, what's your bad side, because the writers had heard that all the fans said that Alex was too perfect, Alex says, I'm super impulsive and I'm a sore loser. Now, fast forward to when they have their dinner and the drunk guy is sitting on Carlene and Alex fucking blows up and is like, I never asked you for anything. I've been waiting for you this entire time. I put up with your bullshit and you have nothing but eyes for that bitch. I fucking hate you. Bitch, get in the car. If you don't get in the car in the next 5 minutes, I'm leaving you here. Don't talk to me anymore. I'm like, where did this bitch come from? And you've got the fucking nerve. I wish you would yell at me in real life. We would be fighting. We would be scrapping. I would grab that bitch by the back of her head and drag her along the concrete if she talked to me like that. I was like,
think...
who does that? Who does that?
Like, Pearl was so open about, like, I'm not emotionally available, but I'm willing to go on a few dates because you're really into this.
Mm-hmm.
Alex never had a chance with her. Alex never had a chance with her, and that's why it's so baffling that at the very end she says, I'm staying in Manila, like I'm not going down without a fight. Like, you're not fighting, like you're not even on the ring, like you're not
the fight's
anywhere.
over.
Yeah, the fight is over before it began. So to be honest, the only thing that bothered me about this outburst, which I felt it was a little over the top, I agree, but I think it would have been more justified if if it hadn't been Alex who actually suggested that Pearl date both of them, right? Because perhaps it should have been Carlene who said, like, well, now I have these feelings for you, but you're kind of already invested in the other girl, and I don't want to be that person who is now, so you just choose, so just see how it goes or something. But it was Alex who was like so patient with Pearl and all of this. So this kind of 180 of her personality, it really it didn't really suit kind of the situation, and it was a little extreme. Yeah, it was a little extreme.
Alex does not love herself, because she would not have stayed if she loved herself. She would not have been at the end being like, no, she's the one for me. I'm gonna go again later, even though she's rejected me multiple times. It's like, Alex, love yourself. Go home to LA or find someone else in the Philippines, because she's not the one.
Alex is a gaslighter. Alex is one of those people that will make you feel like, oh, I've just done so much for you, and what have you ever done for me? And all the bad things are you, they're not me. I've been nothing but understanding. And like Aggie said, you're the one who suggested dating two people. You're the one who, every time that Pearl said, I'm emotionally unavailable, Carlene saying she still likes me, I still have unresolved feelings, you're like, give me a chance. I just want a chance. Give me a chance. And then when you're on your date, which I guess you feel like this is the moment I'm totally going to swing things in my favor, and Pearl notices that her friend, even if they're not romantic, her friend is getting accosted by some drunk guy, all of a sudden like, you've never been there for me. I've put up with your bullshit. All these things making it seem like Pearl is the one who's always been in the wrong the whole time, when Pearl's been very honest with Alex, honest to a fault. Honestly, some of the stuff that Pearl told Alex, I'd have never said. I'd have been dating both of them and I'd have just kept it quiet. But I really honestly feel like Alex is a really toxic character, because I could see her later on, if Pearl was to give Alex a chance. Let's just pretend like after the 8th episode, when Alex decided to stay in Manila, her and Pearl get together, and then Pearl does something that Alex doesn't like, and Alex will turn around and say, I changed my whole life for you. I stayed in Manila when I could have gone back to LA where the rest of my family is for you, because you told me you cared about me, even though those are absolutely decisions that Alex made on her own. And so it's just, again, there's something wrong with Alex. Alex needs fucking therapy, especially because she told Pearl when she first got on the phone call with Pearl, I'm in Manila for good. But then when she talks to her sister's like, when are you coming back to LA? So she was never actually in Manila for good. She didn't make that decision until episode 8. You're a fucking liar. So
I think in episode 1, she just kind of said, like, seemingly for good, because they were stuck in Manila because of COVID. So she said like, we're gonna be here for a while because of COVID, I think. But I do agree that she even, I think in episode 1 she said something like, oh, I think I'm gonna stay, like, but it depends. And Pearl's like, depends on what? Like, on you. Like, this is your first conversation after like 12 years, right? Isn't that also creepy?
I mean, real talk, Alex should have stayed in Manila because LA is so fucking bad with COVID. As someone who's in LA, it's really bad here. And if I had the chance to not be in this country and be literally anywhere else, I'd be like,
I don't know if
sign
the
me up.
Philippines are the answer to that, to be honest, because I hear that on that side it's also not really great right now.
I don't know, man. LA is real bad. So everything looks better than LA besides Florida.
But like Alex is, that's what I'm saying. Like, to me, the biggest flaw of Alex's was exactly that her entire personality was like in Pearl. Because I feel that like, I can agree to some extent with what Samantha said about kind of how she kind of just like bottled it all up seemingly, and then she would, you know, just burst any moment, like when it's convenient, like just to blame Pearl or any other, you know, person that she chose over something that wasn't their fault. But it just felt like if she were, if all of this mess wasn't really related to Pearl, perhaps like I could have understand that I could have understood that she, how to say this, that she was trying to be patient in this relationship, and perhaps because Pearl was almost too honest with her, and you know, and Alex kind of came into this thinking like, oh, I have a crush on you, and then, well, I mean, yeah, but all things considered, but like Pearl was like, well, I like somebody else now, I'm not really emotionally available, and Alex was the person who was kind of like constantly, you know, persistent in this. So that whole outburst was very untimely and a little weird considering everything that she did previously. But I could like to just a little, you know, just a little, I could understand perhaps it was just too much for her, because she was so patient, and then she just like at some point she just couldn't take it anymore. Like, it's not that I'm sympathizing with her, because I also thought that was toxic, but when she had that outburst, all I could think about was that even if Caroline didn't know that they were in that resort, she really didn't have to stay there. Or like, they were on a date and Caroline was like sitting right there, or like they were at the pool and Caroline was just right there. So I don't know, I think I was just prejudiced like against Caroline from the start. But there are so many things that Caroline did that, quite frankly, especially on first watch, made Alex really good in comparison. That's what I'm going, that's all I'm going to say about this.
Also, shitty writing alert.
Oh yeah.
If Mason was to tell me and my boyfriend are going to a resort for a date, I would ask, oh, what resort are you going to? Even though I have no romantic interest in Mason, that would be the next question. Like, oh, where are you going to? How is it that Carlene doesn't know where Pearl is going with Alex, and she just happens to show up there when normal people will ask you, oh, where are you going? Especially in a fucking pandemic. What's open that y'all could actually go to? So
they didn't say that. They say like 2 resorts are open around. So some people were trying to defend Carlene. I remember in those comments saying like, oh, she didn't know, she just happened to be there, she needed to get away. But like, I also think that she probably knew exactly, because she was the person who recommended the resort to Pearl on some other occasion, right?
Yeah, I mean, Alex is the one who planned it. Like, Alex did all the planning, so Pearl had no part in planning it. But also, like, who doesn't ask where are y'all going? That's natural to ask where are y'all going, you know. And also, like, this would be the last I shit on Alex. Well, it might not, but I'm hoping it will be. Alex's behavior after the blow up was obscene. Pearl's like, I'm so sorry. Can I talk to you? I was scared. Whatever else. Alex doesn't want to talk. Then Alex begins to like low-key stalk Carlene's page to see what's happening between Carlene and Pearl. And then when she finally does call Pearl, it's like, I don't care. I'm over it. And it's just like, okay, now you're just being petty. Now you're just being petty. And when she realizes that Pearl once again is like, I'm not about that bullshit, Alex. I'm her right now. I was like, oh, I'm sorry. I'll save that for later. What's going on, girl? And it's just like, what are you?
Now that you're saying this, like, I mean, obviously I was aware of this, but now that you're saying this, it just sounds even more absurd, like altogether, like all things considered.
Ugh,
Definitely
a lot of
check
stuff going on.
therapy for these three.
So the ending is terrible, and the whole idea that Pearl is supposed to wait for Carlene, the whole idea that, like I said, to me anyway, the way that I took it, Carlene didn't really apologize to Pearl for the things that actually mattered. So the idea that she was suddenly, to me again anyway, like she suddenly was like, okay, now yeah, you're right, I need to go to therapy. Like it's not the point. The point is that everything that she was doing throughout the entire show until basically 7.5 episodes in, it didn't point to the fact that she had any inclination, you know, to try and change it. Like on multiple occasions she said to Jill, like, I'm over this. I'm you know, obviously she wasn't over it, like the trauma and everything, but like it just felt like even that final kind of moment when she was like, now I'm in therapy, now everything's going to be great again, like it just felt like they were just ticking off boxes in order not to be accused of, like, you know, being toxic or unhealthy or something towards the end. The idea that Alex is still not giving up, even though she's not even in the race anymore. Obviously, there's season 2 there, which Vaya con Dios, I will not be watching. But it sucks. It sucks. It really sucks. This was supposed to be. There's a bunch of girls' love. If you allow me, towards the end, I would like to recommend a few girls' love stories. But this was supposed to be it. This was supposed to be like the not so short format, like developed, you know, perfect elaboration on these topics I was waiting for, and it was just a hot mess.
The sequel bait pissed me off. I'm like, you don't have enough content for another episode, let alone another fucking season.
No, the only second season I want to see is between Carlene and Jill. That's the only second season I want to see, because there are not enough pieces of media where the big bitch gets the hot girl.
Yes.
What, I don't know if I mean, considering that this is not this, right now we're talking about Pearl Next Door, not the Game Boys, but how do you guys feel about because I also felt like, due to the fact that we only really had the love triangle, which was going in circles, and then we had the side characters, the Fonzie and his guy, which, like, whom
we have to talk about that too.
Yeah, but I was thinking about how, like, because of all of this, like all of this love mess, and because they were only really focusing on that, this was probably part of the reason why there was just nothing to talk about, because they haven't really developed, they haven't really elaborated on anything that I was hoping they would, like, you know, bisexuality and all these other valid problems, like, and issues. But in the Game Boys, we had like a whole, each of these characters, like, they had their entire, like, different world, right? There was a whole COVID problem. There was, like, Gav had some other problems also. And I thought that this really kind of enriched the story. Like, the love story between them, I guess, like, was okay. Like, I liked it, and I thought it was okay. But what really made the show for me was the fact that it wasn't just about that. And when I was watching Pearl every week, I was just thinking exactly that. Why aren't you giving me more? Like, just at least give me, like, some kind of, like, I guess it just, you know, goes back to the fact that they had no personalities, right? Because they just had nothing else to do. Like, even I still don't know, like, is being an influencer Pearl's job? Like, Carlene is, I guess, working remotely, because on several occasions she says, like, I just finished my phone call for the day. Like, what is Alex doing? Is she just sitting in the house because she's under lockdown? Like, they could have added anything to just kind of divert the attention just exclusively from this love triangle that just kind of, it really just came down to Alex is singing weird TikToks, songs nobody cared about. I was literally fast forwarding all of that. It's just...
We spent so much time listening to music that I did not want to hear.
Can we please have a show one day? Can we please have a Boys Love or Girls Love where we don't have to sit through an awkward scene where one character is just singing at another person?
I hate when people sing in shows. I just hate it. I'm allergic to it.
It makes me cringe. I don't even like when people sing happy birthday to me. Like, if a guy actually did that to me, I think I would stop him. I'd be like, no, that's sweet. But Pearl was like, Oh my God. Like, mm, mm-mm,
Yeah. It
mm-mm.
only works in I Told Sunset About You. That's the only time it worked.
I don't even remember what you're
But that
talking
was a
about.
very special show, so
Yeah, when they were singing the Chinese song and then he was interpreting the lyrics,
Right.
the only time it
it
worked.
had a purpose. It had a purpose. Here, the purpose was to set some kind of competition between Alex and Carlene. At some point, these songs weren't even about Pearl anymore. They were just about who's better, right? It was just...
Also, Carlene could hold a tune. I don't know if she has a singing career, but she's got the face for it. So maybe get on that, girl.
Yeah, Carlene's got it. That's another thing. Like, Carlene's actually talented. Like, apparently Carlene can bake. Apparently Carlene can sing. I mean, Carlene's got a lot going for her.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, if we get a season 2, I want to see Carlene be the person in the love triangle between her, Pearl, and Jill, and then I want Jill to win. Straight up. Straight up, I
I
want
just
Jill to
don't want
win.
to see Pearl anymore, and that is terrible. That is a terrible thing to say. I just don't want Pearl at all. Like, it can be Carlene next door or Jill next door, but not Pearl. Like,
I'll take it.
Yeah.
I'll take it. Carlene on the scene. I want to see it. That's what I want.
I will say one of the few moments of like pure joy, and of the three of us, I liked Game Boys the least, but for whatever reason, the scene where Gav and
Cairo,
I just call him Baby because that's what Gav calls him, and I forget it.
oh my God. Did you guys see the new trailer? It's like 18 times baby under 2 minutes. It's
crazy.
I
So
literally had to close my eyes to try to watch the trailer, which meant that I didn't understand anything that was being said because I have a real problem with people who are grown climbing into other grown people's laps. That shit makes me feel hella awkward. I don't like it.
but seeing them
And
come
like he
to
was bouncing him on his lap. I'm like, ah! Don't do this! Oh God!
Yeah, no. But I did feel like pure happiness when they showed up to comfort Pearl and they had like their dynamic set as a couple. I don't know. It just made me like really happy to see. I was like, I guess I really did like
they were really needed there. Like, we really needed them there because the views were dropping from week to week. I mean, rightfully so, in my opinion, but that was like the highlight of the show for me. And that is another terrible thing to say.
Because you like those characters, at least they have agency outside of being in a couple. They had other things going on in their life.
Exactly.
And like, man, seriously, the views were sad. Like, I didn't think it would ever reach Game Boy's views because the girls love market just isn't as big, unfortunately. But man, Game Boy's had like at least 1 million views per episode. I think the most this one had like almost 400,000 on episode 1, and it never got back up there.
No. And the thing is, they did have a BL storyline in the show, but the BL storyline in the show was so fucking sad and terrible that you couldn't even pull in the leftovers from the BL watchers. Fonzie and Gino and Linus, I think Linus. Can we talk about how that shit show should just never have been a plot point at all?
Waste of time.
Oh my God.
I mean, Linus is fine, don't get me wrong. I looked up his IG. But outside of that, pointless.
Is Linus the guy who shows up at the very end?
Yes.
Because
The
I don't know if
vampire.
you know this. I don't know if you know this, but when I was reading these comments, apparently the main couple for Fonzie is supposed to be that guy, not the guy that was inviting him to do the polyamory thing. So I guess his storyline never even started. Like, it's going to be in season 2.
Yeah, I noticed that because I was looking up posters to prepare for because I make the thumbnails for these episodes, and I was looking up Pearl Next Door posters, and the main poster has Linus in it. Linus and Fonzie are next.
That was him, right? I was also waiting for him, but then I just forgot about this poster altogether.
And then after I watched it, I was like, wait, that guy had like maybe 3 minutes of screen time, and then he dipped. So where's Gino? Where's
either something went totally wrong there. Either something went totally wrong there, or it's really just beginning. But would they know that? Like, would they know for sure that there's going to be season 2? Like,
I think what happened is, if you recall, I think it was either after episode 2 or 3, they had like a really big hiatus because they said on Twitter one of their main actors was not available. And I think it might have been episode 2 or 3 when we got to see Gino for the first time. We didn't get to see him in the very beginning. And I think that's what happened, is that the actor who plays Linus was not available for some reason. And then
Mhm.
that's when they switched up who the love interest for Fonzie was going to be, because I'm like, there's no way that Rachel or Ayana are not going to be available. I'm sure they completely booked out their schedule for this. So who
Right.
is the main character that wouldn't be available for filming? And it was probably that guy.
That would make sense. I could see that.
I thought that I heard, but it wasn't. Oh, sorry.
What?
No, sorry. I like. I think there's like some kind of delay. You were saying something, and then I just like interrupted you. But I thought that. Um, I guess I didn't get that like main character part, because I actually thought that the reason why they delayed was because they couldn't book Gav and Kai, because they were in episode 3. So I thought that was what it was about, not like the main character. Okay.
Well, I
But
hope that for the next
but
show, they write it out fully ahead of time and take the time to write it out a nice, good show and say, we're going to do this. We're going to do this. The fans will react how they react, but we're going to do this.
yeah, because
And
like
just set it in stone.
the thing that made me so mad about the Gino, Linus, and Fonzie storyline is that Gino never tells Fonzie until that very moment that he's dating another guy. Never mentions it. Even though he says, I'm into polyamory and I'm looking for somebody who's down for that, he never says, oh, by the way, I have a boyfriend. And so to spring that on somebody, like, and by the way, this is the other person who'll be a part of our throuple,
Mhm.
that's never how you do that. And if I was Fonzie, that would have been the end of the call. There would have been no other conversation. There would have been none of this leering that Linus does towards Fonzie, like, ugh. That would have all been gone. That would not have existed. So the fact that they threw this in there just to almost make polyamory seem dirty or sleazy, I didn't like that at all, because that's what it ended up doing. It made it seem like people who are polyamorous are liars, that they're sleazy, that it's a sex thing. And it would have been more reasonable if they had established that Fonzie had a crush on a guy who was already in a relationship, and that he feels like he's getting super flirty energy. And that's when the guy says, well, you are getting flirty energy because me and my partner are interested in opening up our relationship to you.
The reason why they didn't do that is probably because then they would have lost, quote unquote, that entire inner saboteur comic relief that to me wasn't comic relief at all. Like, the character was funny for like 2 episodes, and then I was just so done with him. And the worst part about all of this was that as all of these things were kind of going on, all these kind of like heavier things, like that were supposed to be, I guess, like dramatic points, or like, whatever, um, they would kind of switch it up in between scenes. They would have like a really heavy scene, like, was it episode 6, was it episode 7 or 8, when like um like both Pearl and Fonzie had, I guess, the moment when like Fonzie realized that the whole polyamory thing was going on, and then like Pearl, I guess, had a fallout with both of her girlfriends, and they just like made it so ridiculously absurd by like having them in some kind of like cemetery background zoom, fake crying. Like, was it supposed to be like, was that supposed to like lighten the mood? Because it was just, I was just like, I was getting a whiplash. I was like, what are you trying to do here? And the whole polyamory thing that just like came out of nowhere, literally, was another thing that I think was just to be like, check, now we're so open. We talked about bisexuality, we talked about polyamory, we talked about this and that. Like, you didn't talk about anything. Like, this is not representation, you guys, to me anyway. Like, it's not enough to just say like, hey, it exists. Like, give me some discussion, give me some elaboration. It's such a waste of opportunity. Like, every step of the way, this show is just a missed opportunity on so many things.
I gotta
Wow.
say, the cemetery bit I loved, because I was like, these are two dramatic bitches, and I respect them for it. I was
I
like,
just, while I was listening to Aggie talk, I was just thinking, I think that Pearl is supposed to be Elle Woods from Legally Blonde.
Oh my God.
maybe.
Like, not like trying to be a lawyer, but I mean like that kind of like, I get down, but then I just pick myself right back up. That kind of personality type.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is, when you watch Legally Blonde, if you've ever seen it, I know that probably everybody here has seen it. The reason why that works for Elle is because she's doing that to empower herself. You don't get the feeling that Pearl's positivity or her kind of approach to sad topics by making it lighthearted is to empower herself. It's almost like it's to forget that I have to deal with something deep.
Mm.
And that is a huge difference, because when you see somebody trying to uplift themselves, it's coming from a well of strength inside of them to push them through negativity. Whereas when somebody is just, let's just joke about this, it's denial and it's pushing things down. And it's one of the reasons why ultimately people wanted Pearl to be alone,
Mm-hmm.
because Pearl comes across as somebody who really is not suited for a relationship in a lot of ways, because
Mm-hmm.
she's not even able to honestly and deeply approach her own feelings about the people in her life.
Mm-hmm.
She did have some growing up to do, honestly. Like, I was also, by episode 4, I was like, I hope you stay single. But even then, like, she had her own issues, right? So I don't know. This was super eloquent, by the way. I love it. I feel exactly the same.
Last thing, I was enraged when they brought Achilles in, because that was a fucking cop out for season 2 of Game Boys. That's exactly what that was. Because when episode 13 and a half ended and Achilles was left on red while the other 2 boys were having their tete-a-tete, get together, whatever else, I remember talking to Mason and being like, I feel so bad for Achilles, because once again, the femboy is not going to get the guy. Mm-hmm. So then they throw Achilles into the end of this and like, do I know you from somewhere? To make it seem like, oh, don't worry about Achilles, he's got a relationship. And that's exactly how they're going to write that shit off. Writers, prove me wrong. I'd love to see it. But it seems like you threw Achilles at Fonzie in order to be like, when these other 2 characters get together, when it's Kyle and I can't remember the other guy's name, when they get together in season 2, don't worry, Achilles' feelings aren't going to be hurt because he's got a man. Mm. And that fucking blows.
So you think that he will not appear in season 2 then? It will just like be...
He's not in the previews.
Oh, well, that's right. That is true.
When does season 2 come out?
I'm not sure, but they've already got a teaser.
Soon, anytime between tomorrow and next year.
Great. It's like when YG says, coming soon, and you're like,
oh my God. Who's next? Nobody.
Yeah. We're working on a comeback, guys. Totally.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
I'm trying to think if there's anything, because I literally wrote so much, but I think we've talked about everything. I had the most to say about me, for sure.
Everything out. I thought the set design was nice. It looked nice. Like the set design, the colors. I'm so used to like, we watched one of Boys Love where it's just like, I'm in Thailand and I'm wearing a white t-shirt with a black tie on a white background and everything's just white or black. So I was
Have you started watching something called The Cupid Coach? Because you should.
No, I've actually been on like Boys Love vacation for the last couple of weeks because I was getting overloaded. I have so much catching up to do, but I've heard it's not great. Also, Aggie, I don't know if you caught this, but Mason continues to call button-up shirts t-shirts, and it is a big debate between the 2 of us as friends.
It's just a t-shirt.
It's not a t-shirt.
These are just t-shirts. Fine.
A t-shirt is a certain kind of shirt. I will defend that to my dying breath. Okay, so I think that we've pretty much talked out Pearl as much as we can, but I do want to address what Mason said about the scenery set design. It's really hard to do set design when you're talking about Zoom calls, because you have to put a lot of energy into what's a really small frame that you're going to be sitting in for a long time. I think what they did with Pearline's apartment was great. I wasn't too keen on Fonzie and Gino's places. I wanted to live with Linus. I don't know what kind of vampire lair he's in, but I want to be a part of the coven. And Carlene is another reason I want to hang out with Carlene is because Carlene's place looks luxe. She looks like she's got like leather and fine woods in her apartment, and I want to hang out there.
I want to sleep on her
Wasn't
couch.
she the only person whose apartment, like more or less, we actually like saw in this show? Because I felt like we were just in Pearl's bedroom 24/7, and then Carlene was like her bedroom, her kitchen, her something. So it gave a little bit more, like, even in regards to her setting, I guess she was the winner, right?
Yeah, Carlene actually has her own place, unlike everybody else. So yeah, Carlene's the fucking winner here. Let's just acknowledge it. Carlene is the winner, even though she's one of the worst characters on the show. She's still the winner. Also, like, Jill lives in a cracked closet.
Oh,
Yeah, Jill needs to get the bag and move in with Carlene.
Yeah.
Also, one quick thing.
maybe she will. Maybe she will be Jill next door.
Season 2.
Got it. I would love, also just another thing that I liked, very small, the dress that Pearl wears, it's like her pageant dress, I thought was stunning. When she walked out, I was like, oh, that's a nice dress, Pearl, where'd you get it?
Yeah, that was the only time where Alex's emotions read real. Is like, I agree, girl. Jaw dropping.
With her like jet black wavy hair, I was like, damn, okay, this is nice.
Speaking of like chemistry, I really did. I mean, all things considered, like, you know, characters separately and whatnot, but Alex and Pearl just never even had any real chemistry whatsoever. And I don't know if it's because maybe, what's her name, Rachel, like maybe she didn't have experience, because I heard like in the Game Boys they were actually shooting these people separately, right? They weren't like on a Zoom call, actually they were just like staring into a camera and like reacting supposedly to something that is not happening. And sometimes I just felt like they were just like there talking and there was nothing. So maybe that was part of the reason why some people really preferred Carlene and Pearl, because at least I felt like the actress that played Carlene, like she was doing her job, like she was doing her, you know, most est, so to speak. So
yeah, that first episode, the way Carlene was giving them eyes over Zoom, I'm like, Pearl, I get it. This bitch is giving you the vibe. You're not wrong. I would never do a whole YouTube video about why you're the one, but still, I get why you felt like that was a go, why this was a gamble that you could take.
Okay.
Do we have to rate this?
Yes, we do. On the count of 3.
Ooh, wait, I didn't think of one.
Wait.
Okay.
1, 2, 3.
4.
6. I thought it was entertaining enough.
So
all right,
5
so,
altogether.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a beautiful show in terms of visually. I think that it is something that if you watched Game Boys and you watch this, you'd appreciate seeing familiar characters tangentially. But in terms of it being a standalone and it contributing to any kind of genre, I think it fell short of the mark.
I can agree on 5 because the extra minus point that I took away from it, I guess, was just, I'm not going to lie, just the weight of my own expectations that were never really fulfilled. And I just had so many expectations. And I don't know, it's just like I said, it's just that there is such few, like so little girls love content that I was just like I was just like a thirsty person waiting for it. And it's just, so yeah, so I agree, like 5 is okay, but like I would give it a 4, I guess, because the extra the extra expectations were there. So.
Well, then you can join me on my rant of the day.
Okay.
So I think that Pearl Next Door demonstrates an ugly truth about boys love that a lot of people don't want to acknowledge, and that's that a lot of viewers are here for the kisses and the skinship and don't really give a fuck about gay lives or, you know, the trials and tribulations of trying to be open in a society that wants you to stay closeted forever, if just not even acknowledge your own existence. And Pearl Next Door, that drop off in ratings that Mason talked about, the way that they don't really get into it. And at the end of the day, Pearl actually comes across quite sexless, has everything to do with the fact that they don't take gay seriously when it comes to a lot of media. And the only reason why, honestly, I think a lot of gay men, their stories get taken seriously is because there's more men behind the camera creatively than there are women. So you're not going to get as many of those stories for gay women. And they could be added all over the place. It's not like you have to necessarily always dedicate an entire show to a GL storyline. You could take a show like My Engineer, or you could take a show like Sodus or Together, where you've got these big ensemble casts and there's multiple couples. That's where you could fit a GL couple in. And you can make them happy. And you don't have to have them be stressful or anything else like that. You could literally have a show like Together where the side couple is two pearls, where they are helpful to the main couple. They're doing all the things that need to be done to help get the storyline along, but also they're wildly in love with each other. And that's the reason why everybody's happy to see them every time they're on screen. They could be the Mike and Top Tap from Tonhon Chunleti. That could have been two girls. That could have been two girls, straight up. And the reason why it's not is because there aren't enough women in production. There aren't enough women in development. There's not enough women behind the scenes. And also nobody actually legitimately cares about representation, which leads into the next part of Samantha's rant. Tanan Chonlathi is a fucking mess, and I cannot believe that Boys Love Twitter has allowed this thing to become something that we cherish, like, admire, or even look positively on. 3 out of 10. And that's me being fucking generous. It should be 2 out of 10.
Less, honestly. 3 is too generous.
Ton is completely homophobic. Let's just put that out there, and no bullshit. Oh, I knew all along that I was gay. It was hard for me to admit it because my dad. I don't want to hear that bullshit. That's not true. That's not true. It's a lie. It was filmed. I went back and I looked at the episode where they went into the bedroom and he had the vision board and everything. That whole turnaround and smirk shit, that wasn't there. That wasn't there. It wasn't even cut away. It wasn't there. And
did you see how crafty they were with like trying to at the very last moment put like, but Ton had been in love with Chonlathi for like since he was like 15 years old or something. Like, no.
It's a lie. It's a fucking lie. So Ton and Chonlathi, not only is Ton super fucking gay, which are, well, homophobic, which we don't like, but Ton, who is, I guess, the bottom, the wifey, the girl of the relationship, and that's not me saying that, that's them saying that in the show. That's them saying that in the show. At every fucking turn where he could have rescued his own self-esteem and his own pride, he always sacrificed himself for Ton. And for the last 2 episodes to make it seem like I'm not going to have somebody who doesn't care about my feelings be my boyfriend goes completely against every fucking time that Chon was like, oh, well, I won't date him because I don't want anything bad to happen to him. Or I'm willing to just love him forever and him never acknowledge my presence as long as I can still be in the same room with him and exist on the same planet that he does. And it's just like, is this really how you see gay men? Do you really see gay men as either the ones who, in the words of Tom's sister, only like this one guy, not actually gay?
Oh my God, that was the worst. That was the worst.
Or
you just see how they picked the worst thing. They literally picked the worst thing that could have broken them up. Like all the things that he was basically just tolerating and sacrificing himself like for 9 episodes. They just picked this one thing about the girlfriend who obviously set Ton up for the kiss or whatever. Like that's what was supposedly like almost broke them up. Like I'm just not buying this. It's wow.
It is so trash. It is all the things that we complain about on every show all rolled up into one big awful ball. It's you know, how effeminate men are expected to be disrespected because somebody might like them, and you should just hold out hope that someone will eventually want your bottomy butt. It's okay if our friend is homophobic and doesn't acknowledge our real existence because he's a good guy. So we can just stay in the closet for years. How do you live?
He's a great guy. He's a great guy. He just doesn't like my existence, but it's just a small thing. Otherwise, he's great. He's a great friend.
A great guy who takes you to the whorehouse because you're a virgin and you need to get laid. That's the great guy that he is. He's a
Wow.
great guy that every time he senses that you might be not masculine enough, he's got to do something to mask you up, because that's unacceptable. But yet and still, I'm secretly been in love with you this whole time. Like,
Because of course the father took all the blame, right? They had to put the blame on the father and the ex-girlfriend in order, for Ton to be like, yeah, now he's the romantic hero we've been waiting for. Oh my fucking god, this show is just, I cannot believe I wasted 10 hours of my life on this. It's amazing. It's amazing how absurd it is.
The evil bitch of the show, Amp, who is the most evil person I've ever seen in a boys' love outside of the girl from Together with Me. This girl, bitch, evil queen, whatever you want to call her, she not
She's
only sends pictures to Ton's home to try to get his parents to see that their son's gay. And that doesn't work. She stalks his parents to meet them outside their car to hand deliver these photos to them. And that's after she had arranged to have Chon raped at the bar at the food service. The food service party. She intended to get him drunk, get him to the bathroom, and then have a senior from their facility rape him in the bathroom. And the only reason why he didn't get raped is because Ton charged into the bathroom, broke the door to the stall, and pulled his rapist off of him.
Mm-hmm. And even then, Gunsmile was done dirty because he was in agreement about being like a tool for sexual assault and everything else. But then in the final episode, he was like, you're homophobic? I guess we can no longer be friends. Like, she has been using him the entire time for so many horrible things, and he just now realized that she was homophobic. This show is just...
It's just, and at some point, I think she says, "Do you remember what happened to you? That's what we're going to do to Chon." So apparently, at some point, Gunsmile's character had been raped in the bathroom, and he's like, "Yes, that's part of the initiation ceremony. Time to open up that ass." And it's like, what? What universe is this?
This is why we have no women in even a secondary character in BL, because this character set BL women back by like 100 years. Like, honestly, it's just...
I am convinced GMMTV secretly hates gay men and women.
Yeah. What's homophobic but not homophobic? GMMTV.
Yeah. If you're not a
They're making money of it. I don't know if you guys saw that yesterday there was something related to GMM that was trending because they posted about some donations that Bride's fan club did, but they never posted about any like synced or any other actors related like donations, and people got so mad they were like trending. And then somebody posted this entire Twitter thread about how basically Sotus like saved them from bankruptcy back in 2015 or something. So since I read that post, I've been just convinced that, I mean, obviously this is business. It's not like this is charity. So it's not like they're doing it for representation. Like, I'm very acutely aware of that. But even then, to be like that, like to not have even like basic decency to try and like represent the community that you're profiting off in just at least like semi-accurate light. This show, Ton Hon Shon Lati, is just, and the worst thing about this show is that the book is not very exciting, but the book is just normal. Like, there are so many things that you could have just done, and you would have the result would have been my gear and your gown. Nothing special, totally boring, nothing really just happening. Like, that would have been the result, but instead they just went for homophobia, for all the things that we've just like talked about. It's amazing. It's just amazing.
They sat back, they were like, this book's a little boring. Let's add some homophobia. That'll spice it up. People will like that. Mm-hmm.
It really was
we don't like
it was like a dartboard with all the worst tropes, and they just started throwing them fucking darts all over the place, and just like whatever we hit. Yes. Bad girl villain, check. Sexual assault, check. Submissive femme character, check. Like, they did all the wrong things. And then like the ending, because this is such a shitty fucking show, what could have been like the height of conflict in a previous episode, like the dad saying, "You're gay, your roommates are gay, I'm going to pull you out of here because you're surrounded by gay people and it's infectious." The dad has a heart attack. And while he's in the hospital being treated for this heart attack that he has, that's when Tom's mother's like, "Actually, the reason why my husband is acting like this is because we've known our son was gay the whole time, but he has to have a child because someone has to carry this family's name." And then Sean's mom was like, "Oh, well, have you heard of this new technology called surrogacy? It could totally make this whole child thing happen, and you don't have to have a woman involved, just a vacant womb." And the dad, recovering from his coma, is like, "You mean we could pay somebody to have the baby? Yay!"
That reminds me of like Rent.
This
when
literally
Mimi
happened
gets
in
saved.
3 seconds. This literally happened in 3 seconds. But the worst part of it was when he said that when Mike and Top were sitting on the sofa, and the father's like, "Oh, to you guys, but I just really don't want Tom to be around you because he might become like you." And then Mike, who I guess this actor just cannot take anything seriously, he was just like, "Sorry." Like they made the character literally apologize for the fact that he was gay, right? That's what it was, right? Because the father said like, you might become like no, just
What were you
the
saying,
fact that
Mason,
we
about
spent
Rent?
20 minutes sitting on this show is already too much for it, I think, because it's just
I was saying the scene with the dad reminds me of the end of Rent, where Mimi gets saved from AIDS because Roger wrote her a nice song. And she's like on the brink of, have you guys seen Rent? Rent is another thing that like is very gay, but is also homophobic. Like Rent sucks, Rent is shit. I'm sorry, I know it's like a gay classic. Every character is shit. And it's another example of all the bi characters are just slutty McSluttersons, you know? But
The only
like,
thing I know about Rent is that everyone has HIV.
only a couple of characters. So Mimi and Roger are one of the main couples, and Roger is like a songwriter, and Mimi is she has AIDS. She, is kind of like, well, I could die tomorrow, so I might as well live it up now. And they have a whole song about it. And at the end, Mimi is out on the streets. She almost dies of exposure and AIDS. And Roger sings her a song, and it's honestly the fucking worst song in the whole show. I actually like the music in Rent. I could not hum you a bar of that song. He just sings her like a slow rock ballad. And she's like, "Oh, I'm saved from AIDS." And you're like, come on. And then she's like, "I saw Angel, I saw the light." Because like there was a character named Angel who did die because of AIDS. And you're like, "You didn't see Angel. Angel's in hell. He fucking murdered a dog. That dude's in hell. I'm sorry to say it." Like, okay, Angel is like the most loved character in Rent, but in his introduction song, he goes, "Yeah, my neighbor had like a really yappy dog, so that dog's in doggy heaven now." And I'm like, "Ooh, he fucking killed that dog." So Angel dies. And I'm like, I don't feel bad. The dude's a dog murderer.
How he killed the dog, or did the dog?
He strangled it because he goes, "That dog's now in doggy heaven." And you're like, I don't know if I want to root for this guy. Anyways, Rent, we could do a video on Rent because Rent's fucking bonkers.
There should be like just a show called like The Worst Gay Things. And it could just be about like all the times that something horrible happened, but it's like, it's okay because it's gay. And it's like, yeah, but no.
Episode 1 should be The Fall of Ellen DeGeneres.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're so mean this episode. We shut on Amber, we shut on Ellen, we shut on Rent, we shut on Pull Next Door.
There's so many things because it's just like it feels like Linkin Park. We come so far to lose it all, and in the end, it doesn't even matter.
Okay. Aggie, you mentioned that you had some girls' loves you wanted to recommend. Would you like to do that?
Yeah, not very many, to be honest, because as we've already established, there's just like literally nothing. But there are a couple of things that I've watched before, and some of them you've probably even heard of, because actually there's not like that many like shows, right? It's mostly just films. And the shows are not very good either, and they're mostly like super short. But I do have like 2 or 3 that perhaps if anyone is interested in this, they could like just spend, I guess most of the time, half an hour watching them, and you would have been like done with the entire show, because that's how short they sometimes are. And there is this really interesting show. I really loved it because the chemistry is really good between the 2 leads, despite how short it is. It's only 5 episodes, and basically one episode is like 5 to 6 minutes long. You can find it on YouTube, and it's called wait, no, well, it's called 75 degrees Celsius. So it's basically this really short story about a cafe owner of like a chain cafe, I guess, and then another lady who is kind of like the general manager of the company who owns the coffee shop. She comes in to kind of check the quality. And the show is really, it's so sweet because it's kind of like ASMR, basically. They're making a lot of tea and coffee and things like that, and there's just like a budding romance there. So this is the one thing that if anyone is even interested in this, like they could check by like watch. But then this is a Korean show, and then from Korean films there is a film called A Girl Next Door. No, sorry, A Girl at My Door. My bad. You probably guys know Beduna, the actress. So that's a film that is not really exclusively focused on like lesbian relationship, but it is pretty straightforward in its portrayal of a lesbian relationship. So that is something that I would recommend personally. Another film that was really, I think it was awarded a couple of things. It was 2 years ago, called Moonlit Winter, which is about a daughter played by, what's her name? Sohye from IOI. She turns out, it turns out that she's quite a good actress, actually. It's about her, like a daughter is trying to find the first love of her mother's, and it turns out to be a woman. So it's not, obviously, it's not none of these films are like like big budget flicks or anything like that. They are mostly just indie films. But it is what it is. Like there's nothing from Thailand apart from this one film called Yes or No. So that is a film from 2010, I think, about 2 roommates. So this is like a university alternative universe, but it does have a tomboy character. So this is, I guess, something that at least there's something, there's some representation there. And yeah, that's about it, I think. The one that I really, really enjoyed from Nadao, because since I told Sunset about you, I've been kind of like, I went back to Nadao a little bit, because My Ambulance and what is it called, Great Men Academy, those things just traumatized me for life. So I didn't really check for them, but there is a kind of like an anthology series, and each episode is about 20 minutes. It's called Quarantine Stories. So episode 10 is about a lesbian relationship, and it's kind of told via Zoom. It's like 4 friends, and 2 of them have a secret, basically. So there's nothing, like, I can't really summarize this well because it's only 20 minutes. But if anyone is interested, it's episode 10, and it's called Quarantine Stories from the DAO. All of this can be found on YouTube, by the way. And the latest thing that I'm watching, which I was really excited about, and then I don't think it's so exciting anymore. There is this GMM show called Wake Up Ladies. And right now there is season 2 of that show. And it has a few BL men that I think we know, like First, and these 2 guys from The Shipper, which I guess is not a BL, but like we would know who they are. Lita Nat is there's like some solid kind of secondary cast, but the ladies are obviously what matters. And the first episode of the 2nd season started with this boy obsessed lady who could never get the guy. She was approached by a woman, and she realized that actually she's pansexual. The first episode, you guys, is like the sweetest thing ever. I just started watching it today. I watched that fucking episode like 3 times in a row. I was like, yes, you need to be the end game. I need that in my life. And now I'm 4 episodes in, I think, and they're now actively trying to make that actual lesbian character who approached the main character. I think they're trying to make her into some kind of like a she's kind of like organization obsessed, like she's trying to control her. And I don't know, obviously I'm not liking this. I really thought that we would have like an actual lesbian relationship there, but I don't know what to say about this. I just want to say, just watch the first episode and be happy forever. and just end there. Perhaps that'll be the best thing. So yeah, so this was like a super like quick run through the things that I was kind of, these are the only real things that I could even recommend. Because I think if you go to YouTube and you just put like lesbian story or something, there is quite a few really short Korean stories, like 5 episodes, and each episode is like 5 minutes. Most of them are not really worth your time, even though it's only 5 minutes. So now I'm waiting for Wabi Sabi. And they apparently promised us that Sammy and Pinner are going to have at least a side girl love story in one of this year's BL shows. I know nothing about that, but they did say something like that.
I want to issue a threat to Wabi Sabi. Let me tell you something. Sammy has not been done well in anything that you've ever done. You shortchanged her at every moment. You've denied her talent. You've given her the shittiest of personal stories. If you fuck up this thing with her and some other girl, I will find where you live and I will deliver you the ass whooping that your daddy never gave you. Don't fuck with me.
This is a warning. Sam and I are big Sammy stans. So.
She's our fave.
So, I love her, and I really thought that, I mean, you guys know my stance on Until Meet Again. It's perfect. I don't take no for an answer, but everyone and their mother thought that Sammy and Pinner should have been a thing, right? They had more screen time and chemistry than Sammy and the guy who, I guess, started dating her 5 minutes.
Did we even find out the guy's fucking name? I don't even know if we know his name.
He does have a name. He does have a name. I just can't remember. And
exactly.
I watched the show 7 times.
They probably say it the first time when she sees him, when he confesses, she's probably like, "Oh, hey, my good friend, Steve. How's it going?" And he's like, "By the way, I've had a crush on you for the last 12 episodes and I've said nothing." And then she's like, "Ha!" And then they're done.
He does say that she's cute in episode 2.
Yeah, when he's half naked in a pair of Speedos, he's like, "You're cute." Meanwhile, like, "You're naked."
No. Later on, and Boone and him are standing in the locker room and they're talking about their respective endgame partners. And then he kind of says like, "Oh, they're like Fluke and whoever else's friend is also cute." And like that's his acknowledgement of his attraction towards her.
Okay, well, Minho from Shiny is cute. Can you please be in game? Is that how that works? Is that what we do? Oh, Pinat, you are beautiful. Is that in game now? Is it going to happen because I put it in the universe? It's just going to.
If this were a Wabi Sabi universe, perhaps.
The trash we have to troll through to try to get to some gems. There is one other kind of girls love pairing on GMMTV currently. Friend Zone, which is just about wrapped up, has a girls love storyline. It's Friend Zone season 2, not the first season.
Okay.
And it the one lesbian has bipolar disorder. And bipolar disorder is discussed. It is discussed in a way that is maybe a little bit nicer than when it would normally be discussed, because mental health is a thing that when you acknowledge that somebody's actually taking medication to help them with their mental health, that's a huge jump. But the one girl has got bipolar disorder that she is not managing very well. The other girl is bisexual perhaps, or a lesbian, we're not sure, but she's also ace, and so they have conversations about the fact that, you know, she doesn't mind having sex because her partner wants to have sex, but it really doesn't do anything for her. What does it for her is, you know, cuddling and whatever else. So they're dealing with that, and then the homophobic mother shows up and is like, "You had been pregnant by a man once, you can't like a girl, stay away from her." Meanwhile, in the first season, the mom like had gambled the families all their money away and was like, "I need you to loan me money or they're going to take the house." And it's like, you're rich. You are really rich to think you could come in here and tell anybody to do shit when you couldn't even keep your own house. But again, it's one of those things where it's
No,
one of
you
those
know
things
what?
where I just can't be happy.
Ultimately, I was thinking about this when I was also rewatching Pearl, and I think this conversation, many people had this conversation also in several different contexts, but obviously always minorities. Like, for example, when people were giving kind of so-so reviews to Crazy Rich Asians, and, they were like, this wasn't, good enough. And some people were like, well, white people have their mediocre romantic comedies, and that's fine too, right? So I was thinking about this, like, when I was watching Pearl, I was just thinking like, okay, well, it's fine if it doesn't like check all the boxes for me, even though I had such huge expectations and I wanted it to be great. But ultimately, I figured, okay, well, GL, like, everyone else deserves good things, mediocre things, whatever things, right? Like, it's fine. But it just really wasn't entertaining. And none of the things, even some of the titles that I mentioned, like 3 or 4 titles that I mentioned, those were the only legitimate things that I actually really enjoyed, even if they weren't perfect. But most of the GL content is just, or even like the hinting at some kind of, GL action is just, it's just like that. Like, they're trying to destroy it immediately. They're trying to erase it. So I don't know what Wabi Sabi is going to do with this thing, but the trailer that they had for like this year's production, I think quite explicitly hinted at the fact that Sami and Pinne are going to be some kind of couple, like, or probably not their own show, but they will be maybe a secondary couple to like a BL, which I think would be a good start too. They don't necessarily have to like do a GL immediately. They can introduce it slowly, but I don't know. I think many people wanted them to be a thing in Until We Meet Again. So I just really hope that Wabi Sabi, perhaps Wabi Sabi will give Sami the girlfriend that we've always wanted for her, because obviously the boy department, like, she doesn't exist for the opposite sex in Wabi Sabi. So
Wabi Sabi has been so trash in 2020 that I just don't think that they're going to be able to pull it off. I mean, yes, Until We Meet Again, major completion in 2020, but let's not forget Wabi Sabi gave us End of Love and gave us A Chance to Love, which was the season 2 of Love by Chance. And also, director New gave us My Gear Your Gown. So when it comes to, yeah, that was him. That's why I'm saying, like, I don't have faith in anything that they're doing until they show it to me. I'm definitely, give me the money first.
Please let the Win Team story be good.
Please, Lord. But
well,
yeah,
I think that Sami will definitely be in that show, in the spin-off. So maybe her boyfriend and her boyfriend will actually get something, like, will have something to do, maybe.
That'd be nice.
That'd be nice.
I do like your
Wow.
argument though about how if straight cis hets are allowed to have mediocre things, why can't we have mediocre things in BL, GL, that sort of thing? I will take it from the perspective of a person of color. As a Black person, our media that's just for us, most of the time has to be created by us. We really can't wait for a lot of white executives to make media for us. And because we're making it on shoestring budgets and everything else, that argument has been a part of us. Like, Tyler Perry's storylines are crap. But we're like, okay, well, if other people are allowed to have crappy stories, like the Michael Bays of the world can have the Transformers series, why can't we have Tyler Perry and his over dramatics and everything else? The problem is no one's fighting for our greatness in media. That's the problem. And that's the problem with BL and GL. It's fine to have mediocre and mundane things, but at some point you have to actively try to give us greatness. And that's not happening with GL at all. It's starting with Boys Love. I mean, you look at And I Told Sunset About You, obviously the bones are there. You look at Trapped, you look at Make Our Days Count, obviously the bones are there, but nobody's doing that for GL. And somebody's got to try. You can't keep saying, oh, well, why can't we have mundane things? It's because you're making that the standard now. You're not making it to where there's a range. You're saying as long as it exists, it's fine. And it doesn't have to have any type of greatness applied to it. And that's something that's got to change asexually.
I think that also another problem would be that it's fine to have something like so-so or mediocre or whatever or average, as long as it's, you know, just harmless and entertaining to a degree. But these days, it seems like the mediocre is being equaled with toxic, especially in BL, right? Because there's hardly any GL to even compare to. But like some of the things that I think you guys talked about this like towards the end of one of your shows when you kind of explained why you didn't want to review Love by Chance too. But the following that the show has, despite everything that is happening in there, and it's even being called like, oh, the best, you know, I mean, the best is maybe an exaggeration, but like I've seen some comments that were really like satisfied with this whole show, or even people who are saying like, well, it's like there are some problems, but like it's normal, just it's average or something. And it's like, no, this is not the kind of average that I would like to see, if any. This is something that should never have happened, right?
Yeah, I feel like if they feel like Plan's performance in Love by Chance season 2 was good, then Mason, you have an opportunity to win an Oscar, because I feel like you could pretend to have sex with somebody far more uh believably than Plan. I mean, the way he's like, oh, I want to have a romantic kiss with you. What
Oh
is
my
that?
that guy. Wow.
What a
And
fucking
why,
asshole.
and this is why I don't know if you guys are being, I think it's because I watch so much of this BL content on YouTube. I'm being recommended a lot of YouTube channels that how to say this, like involve, I guess, you know, gay or kind of same-sex couples, and they're just doing it like you know that they're just doing it for money, because
That
there's this
Chinese
one guy,
couple?
I don't know, but there is this one guy, like one of them is called like something starts with Y, and like I think he's Indonesian, and his husband is something else, like white or something, I don't know. But like the point is that many of them are just like having these really clickbaity titles like kissing for the first time, how I met my husband, now we're just gonna kiss for 24 hours or something. And like on the one hand, you're just kind of like, you can't even fault them for it, because like this is literally, people want to see this and this is how they're earning their money, so just get that coin, whatever, right? But at the same time, I can't help but feel, and I don't know if I'm even entitled to these feelings, because obviously I'm not a gay man, I feel like they're just contributing to the fetishization of all of this, because every, like when you go to the comment section, it's just like, it's just
You're
almost
so
like
cute.
the,
This is so adorable. Oh my gosh, perfect couple. Hashtag couple goals.
Yeah, I keep getting
Yeah.
Max and Yas, I think is the channel name.
that
I keep getting, and it's
that
like,
one.
this is, it's like what daddy bought for me today. And it's just like, and it's so awkward because neither of them seem completely comfortable in the camera, especially the husband. It feels like which one? Maybe Max, I think it is. I don't know which one's which. He's like, oh, I'm gonna film us and we're gonna make 1 million views on us just making out. And then the husband's like, I mean, shit, I guess. So
yeah, the 1 million views won't hurt him, right? So he's just going along with it.
Yeah.
There's a Chinese couple that's an older man and I guess a college age guy, and their whole channel is like hiding my baby's favorite snacks from him. And the younger guy is like, I can't find my snacks. Baby's sad now. And I'm just like, you're in college? And this is what you do at the house? And people are like, oh, give the baby what he wants. And I'm just like, okay, obviously I veered onto the wrong part of the algorithm. The algorithm has led me astray because I watched that and I just wanted to throw my phone across the room. But they do that all the time. It's always like, you know, I kiss my baby every time he says the word the. And so it's like super cut to that.
And the whole conversation about like who this is for, right? Because this is the same, I guess this is almost the same conversation that would be had if this were like actual like fictional BL content, right? Because like who is watching this? Are actual gay men watching this? I don't honestly I don't think so.
No, we are not.
So
we're watching Drag Race because it's airing right now.
Good choice.
The worst one was guess the lollipop flavor, where the more masculine one would lick the lollipop and then smear it over his lips, and then the other one would have to kiss him and tell him what the flavor of the lollipop was.
Let me guess, 1.5 million views, right, on that one.
That sounds like the beginning of a porno.
It was the beginning
and
of
that they
just
can't
awkward.
follow through, right? Because it's YouTube.
Yeah, it's like, I didn't get a taste of that. Let me try again. Is that strawberry? No, I think it might be pineapple. No, it must be the mystery flavor. 25 minutes.
Oh my God.
Not even lying.
Yikes.
Oh my God. Wow.
So
there you go.
Sam,
So I didn't even have this minded of this because now I know more than I wanted. So thanks for that.
You're welcome.
Yeah, so let's pivot to something better. Sam, do you have Instagrams of the day today?
I do. I have all of the main ladies from the show just because I'm sure that people want to know who they are and see their pictures. They have very boring Instagrams, so have fun. So the first one is Adriana, and her Instagram is ADRIANNASO_. So it's Adriana So _ as she plays Pearl. Her Instagram's kind of boring, but she does thirst trap a little bit. She wears a lot of like nude colored bikinis. So if you're into that, you're into that. Then we have Rachel, who plays Alex, and her Instagram is theatrical. It is TheAtrachel, theatrical. So it's like theatrical, but Rachel, get it? Ha, it's funny, it's cute, it's quirky. And her Instagram is again more like indie folk-based lesbian thirst trapping. It's her and the quirky things she finds at the thrift store. It's her wearing awkward outfits. It's her like kind of being revealing, but not really being revealing, but wearing a pair of glasses, so it's not technically thirst trapping. And then lastly, we have Ayana, and her Instagram is just her name, Ayana Bernardez, and it's INABERNARDEZ. And her Instagram is boring, but it's very real. Like when you look at her Instagram, it's not filled with a bunch of promo stuff. It really is just like her and her life. Like she's got a picture of her and her puppy, food she's eating, some trees, that kind of thing. So those are the Instagrams for all the ladies. And then for those who don't know, fun fact, the guy who plays Linus is 30 years old. So he is totally eligible to get this.
Okay.
Even the two main ladies, I think Rachel is like, she's a little younger, but I think the two other ladies are kind of like almost 30-ish, which made me feel a little better about like looking at them. So
manga of the day, Mason?
I don't have any. I am so sorry.
That's okay.
Honestly, that series is pretty much discontinued for a while because I started because I had so many, and then I caught up to a lot of what was being released, and now I just like manga releases, like legal ones are for Boys Love, they take a really long time. The biggest company that does them releases, I think, 2 volumes a month. So yeah, that's on hold until I can collect some more, unfortunately. But what are we reviewing next week? What should we tell them? I honestly forgot.
Okay, so it's the next week, guys, because we do this every other week. Yeah, but we already had promised ourselves we're going to do Tharn Type 2. And I need you guys to understand, we're not doing Tharn Type 2 because we're endorsing that show as being a great watch for people. We're literally doing Tharn Type 2 because we did Tharn Type 1, and Tharn Type 2 is not as bad as Love by Chance Season 2. But in terms of like good, no. In terms of things to talk about, yes. So you're going to get a review because there's a lot to talk about here. And it's not even just the show itself. It's about MAME. It's about drama. It's about possible motivations of why certain shit is actually happening. And also like how not to do a sequel. Straight up and down. This is the talk about how not to ruin a franchise or how to ruin a franchise in 10 minutes.
Mhm.
Whichever one you want to hear about first. But yeah.
I guess Farm Type 2 and Pearl Next Door have one thing in common. The writers started listening to either the audience or the sponsor, and that's how this mess became a mess, I guess, right? Because No, 2 days ago was the 11th episode of Farm Type, and I stopped watching it at episode 8. I couldn't take it anymore. But then yesterday, the episode from 2 days ago, this was the first episode I actually enjoyed because there was actually Farm Type in it. I thought this crazy.
I've been keeping up with Farm Type
episodes.
up until the last episode. I haven't watched the last episode yet, but when Ty kidnapped the yacht, I was like, I'm done. I'm outie. But I know that we're gonna review it, so I'm gonna finish it. But I'm just like, man, you ain't shit. You ain't shit. You're never gonna be shit. You're always gonna be a crock of shit. And I don't know why I expected any better from you, but this absolutely verifies it for me. And whatever her next project is, if it's not a legacy project or related to something that I actually care about, I will not be watching any new shit from Mame because she doesn't deserve. She never has and she never will. And I've made sure to bootleg all the Tharn Type I've been watching. I've been finding everywhere to watch it but Line TV because fuck that bitch.
I will be looking forward to your guys' review then, and I am super honored that you guys had me here for this discussion. And 1% of me is super mad because you guys are doing this show only bi-weekly, and now I cannot watch this episode because I'm in it and I will not be watching myself. So I have to wait another few weeks for you guys.
Well, you already know what we said, so it would have been spoiled anyways.
I guess.
But yeah, thank you for coming. We'll have to have you on again. We'll have to find a different show.
Yes,
Hopefully
thank
a
you
good
so
one
much.
next time.
If everybody knew the
was
time
really nice
difference,
talking to you.
this big sacrifice for you. And so Aggy, people want to find your channel. It's still Aggy Brown, correct?
It is. I don't know if people want to come. I actually fear that people don't like me on YouTube for some reason, and it's been like that for 5 years. So I really apologize for all the down votes you guys will be getting just based on my face.
Don't worry about it. We like having you here. And we said the same shit you did, so don't vote.
If you guys ever want to talk about random shit, not on camera even, just in general, I tremendously enjoyed our talk, really. So I'm always open. It's not a sacrifice at all. Actually, the time difference is not so bad, so it's fine.
Okay.
Perfect. And we'll have to do this again. Maybe we'll bring you on when we do our end of the year next time, because that'll be fun to have another voice in the room.
Yeah, another Boys Love Award.
Yes.
Okay, we'll get you in before then. Okay. Well, thank you all for watching. I hope you have a good day. Bye.
Bye.